look, there's people get paid to have like stupid legal opinions where they can pretend like they're the measured and reasonable ones. They work all across DC and they go to the same conferences and stuff and think they are like the intellectual elite who are making sure that us masses who actually want our government to serve us are the bad guys. We need to start like not caring about their reputational credit. And we also need to stop rewarding those people with positions of power. Those people sneak back in, like lawyers. I'm a lawyer. We have tons of lawyers, but like they shouldn't control every last decision. And certainly when they start talking about like these political things, like, well, if we do this, then they'll do that. It's like, talk to my buddies who, are basically in debt for like the next 10 years because of all the legal fees they're paying. The guys who are 30 and, talk to guys like Steve Bannon who went to jail.
Absolutely.
Talk to the 1,600 misdemeanor J6ers who got the book thrown at them for like something that otherwise would have been charged. Like it has already happened to us.
Howdy, everyone, and welcome back to Moment of Truth, the podcast of American Moment. My name is Nick Solheim. I am the CEO of American Moment, and I'm very glad to be back with you this week with a very exciting guest. We had on Mike Howell at mhowelltweets. You should be familiar on x.com. We were talking about oversight, holding former Biden administration officials accountable, what we can do to support the conservative movement while doing oversight, and why a lot of Republican senators, frankly, are very weak on this issue. We also talked about our good friend Ed Martin. So it's a very engaging episode. We're really excited for you to get to take a listen. But what I will say is you should check out our website at americanmoment.org to find out more about all the exciting things we have going on. We currently have a live application for the Fall Fellowship for American Statecraft. If you want to get paid to do an internship in DC, be indoctrinated by us, and have us help you find your first job, we would love to have you. You should really go take a look at that application, and we look forward to interviewing many of you. Also, if you are one of these summer interns that's going to be, or as we call them, hill turns, that's going to be in Congress this summer, we would love to have you join us at AM Fridays, which is our lunch series that we host, as you guessed it, on Friday in the United States Senate. We cater Chick-fil-A every week. It is a pretty good time. You can find out more information about that at americanmoment.org/AM Fridays. Mike Howell is the president of the Oversight Project. He has senior experience from different oversight positions in the executive branch on Capitol Hill and in representing private parties in oversight and investigation matters. He is a graduate of Duke University and Emory Law School. He is an absolute based American patriot, super America first, pro-Trump guy. We're so proud to have him. We will go now to Mike Howell. Mike, thanks for coming on the podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me. Pumped to be here.
I've been looking forward to this for a long time, dude. I'm sure that people are very familiar with you on the great website, x.com. But help us to peel back the curtain a little bit. Who is Mike Howell and how did you get here?
Yeah, it's an interesting but simple story. Just a dude who going through college and law school was really pissed about the direction of this country, particularly Barack Obama, who we should talk about a little bit, and then decided that I couldn't take it anymore. And so I was in law school and, everyone goes to law school. It's like, oh, I'm going to be like a fancy corporate lawyer. I'm going to go to New York. I'm going to make the big bucks. I'm going to move semicolons for Chinese corporations and fancy contracts and have a house in Martha's Vineyard. And then that quickly became apparent to me. One, I probably didn't have the grades to do it. And then two, all I cared about was the direction of this country. And so major shift away from kind of the legal focus I had at the time towards I need to get up to DC. I'm from kind of this area, although I never growing up ever was in DC, but Alexandria, Virginia. And then just fell into the oversight world. It started out with an internship with an inspector general office, the Federal Communications Commission, actually, looking into Nigerian telemarketer fraud, just reviewing boxes of docs. What happened was AT&T and all these big companies, and I think it was AT&T, it's been 15 years ago, were well aware that Nigerian scammers were using the telephone services for deaf people to place their free calls to rip off Americans. And the companies were happy to get the government reimbursements for it, but knew there was a ton of fraud. And so I just spent the summer reading all those documents of Nigerian phone scammers. I hate scammers. And then just like grew from there. Got a job on the Oversight Committee as an intern. Was like, this is awesome. Like, this is what I want to be doing. It is about going after the Obama administration, and kind of just grew from there. I was very fortunate to have awesome bosses. Senator Ron Johnson was my first boss.
Oh, yeah.
He's the man.
Former guest of this podcast.
Yes. And it was right when he was straight into the Senate. So it was great. Like he still is running hard, but it was an exciting time. And we did a lot as related to like DHS scandals. Secret Service was huge at the time. And then I went from the Senate to Jason Chaffetz's Oversight Committee when he took over. And he let me run wild on a lot of things and had a great team. And it started with, these Secret Service investigations. And we look now, Trump's been shot in the face. Like, everyone's talking about the failures of that agency. We were saying the same exact things everyone's saying now, years and years ago. And then all the Obama controversies. Like, we thought what was happening at the border during Obama was apocalyptic.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh my gosh, it can get so much worse.
Yeah,
that
was so much better than Biden, dude.
Right. And so that's kind of the arc. And then Trump wins. He needs people to help him deal with the oversight. Go in, help him at DHS, defend against all the scandals there that the left just completely made up. Kids in cages, the Muslim ban, like all that, watch my language, but that stuff. And then I kind of realized, I'm like, holy smokes, the left is so much better at this. Like, they can generate like scandal. They can sue. They have propaganda media. They got this all figured out. Like, the Hill and other offices are just their mediums to express this stuff through. Whereas the right, like, we just think sending a letter is the end all be all, and going on like, cable news, bragging about like printing out a letter and signing it like it's some accomplishment.
Right.
And so come to Heritage and basically, I want to build something that can replicate what the left has been able to do and unleash it, because I think the right's been missing it. Kevin Roberts becomes president of the Heritage Foundation, reinvigorates the place and gives a mandate to, go out and sue, cause some trouble, get out there. And we've just built around that. And that birthed the Oversight Project, which has since grown. And it's now just a collection of, I said the other day, I feel like John Calipari. I'm a great recruiter, may not be a great coach, but we're just getting, these 5-star recruits, people coming out of agencies with intel backgrounds, law enforcement backgrounds. There's so many guns at our office all the time. I love it. And then just lawyers who just love fighting. And so we sue a ton. We investigate a ton. We do a great job of it. We make it go so far for the relatively small budget we have. And now we're going to just launch this puppy and take over what I think is a big missing part of the institutional right out there.
Yeah. So give us the breakdown for like, what is the Oversight Project intended to solve for? Like, what is it that gets you out of bed every morning and is like, we're going to get in here and stir a bunch of shit up?
Yeah. Well, that is,
I won't be as careful with my language.
Yeah, that is pretty much how I get out of bed every morning and go to bed. So the right has done a great job of policy formation. We've written papers for a long time.
We write white papers.
We do that. For them. And I'm not like knocking it. It is important. You need the brainiacs and the stiff shirts and the suits to have the great ideas and really think things through. Like, that is not a knock. It's just like, that's what it does.
Yeah.
And you need that part. But there are missing elements when you look at how the left is able to achieve policy wins. They basically create scandals. They tie people up in court. They conquer the information, environment, all of those things. And I learned that because that's what they did to Trump in the first administration. We had complete control for 2 years and didn't get much done because of what the left did through, we'll call it an oversight framework. They stopped the Trump agenda. Paul Ryan failed, all these sorts of things because they were so consumed by the Russia hoax and everything else. And so I want to build that machinery and think we have already started. There's so many different pieces, and there are people who do great work in this space. Tom Jones does epic opposition research work. Yeah. Tom Fitton, all the Toms are great. Tom Fitton, like the FOIA Judicial Watch and the litigation and his messaging. What I want to do is add it to like this huge mix and really build out investigative boutique. And then combine that with lawyers that can actually solve for the information we uncover. And we've done that a couple times in a couple instances, but I want to take it further. Exposure is great. Generating headlines is great. But ultimately what I want to solve for are the problems we're identifying.
Right. So when you started working on all of this oversight stuff and were involved with the committee, this was pre 2016, right? What was oversight like back then? And then what are some of the failures of that as we come into the Trump era on the Republican side?
Love that question. So oversight has been a failing institution for like decades. There's a lot of reasons for it. But before getting into those, I'll just like pretty basic comparison. Ask yourself, what did we accomplish via congressional oversight in the Biden administration? Aside from Comer getting the bank records of Hunter Biden, which was absolutely awesome. They proved to enough Americans they were corrupt because they are corrupt. What else happened? Nothing. You look at the infrastructure bill, $1 trillion. Do you remember any scandals generated there or any investigations? No. Look at the COVID slush fund that came out. Nothing. Congress found nothing. They stopped nothing. Look at the CHIPS Act. You name any of Biden's huge legislative, quote unquote, accomplishments, trillions of dollars of just junk. And Republicans didn't have a single narrative emanating from anything they did on Capitol Hill that registered in the presidential election. They gave Trump no backup, no assist. They didn't discredit the Biden administration at all by obtaining documents, suing, or stopping things or defunding them. Now, that's not to say oversight before was perfect, but one example is a huge boon to the Trump campaign with 10 days before the election was that it was announced that Comey had reopened the investigation into Hillary Clinton. Mm-hmm. A lot of people don't realize the reason why Comey had to make that notification is because then Oversight Chairman Jason Chaffetz had to make that commitment. If you find something else and you have to reopen, you have to tell us. Mm-hmm. And so it's that type of dogged oversight work that generated things that actually stuck in the ultimate political, environment of the 2016 election. Right now, these guys, frankly, by and large, are out to lunch. They're content with sending letters. Part-time kind of legislatures and oversight guys are not in DC a lot. The staff is atrophied. Not a lot of people are getting into it. And it's just come lame. And we intend to, when we started this, my thought was we're going to reinvigorate it. We're going to assist them. We're going to give them stuff. 2.5, 3 years later, my idea is we're going to replace them. We know we can do it. We can get documents better. We can get results better. We hope they catch up to us. But if they're not going to do it, we're going to do it.
Has the work of this oversight committee gone downhill because of that particular individual, Chaffetz, no longer being there, and like no one has risen to the occasion to replace him, or it's just a general atrophy across like all the members of the committee and all the staff? Like, who do you think is primarily responsible for this going downhill?
Yeah, it's a lot of factors working at the same time. It's in full disclosure, I work for Jason Chaffetz. We still work with him on the Oversight Project. He's a mentor. I can't say enough great things about him. But
he seems like, I've never met him, but he seems like he rocks.
Yeah, he's a great dude. But there's a lot of people that became like oversight heroes in that environment. Mark Meadows, was on the Oversight Committee. Devin Nunes was putting up points on the Intel Committee. Jim Jordan was, having great, barbs and questions for Obama officials. So like cultivated a lot of leaders. Now, over time, the bite of congressional oversight has gone away. People figured out they don't have to respond to these letters. Yeah. There's a standoff happening at the constitutional level where the executive branch and some Supreme Court decisions give more power back to the exec. They just figure out they don't have to respond to the letters.
Right.
And so Congress over time has also been staffed by lawyers who advise leadership and others. You don't need to wage that fight. Like we're content with oversight merely being a messaging function. And I've heard that exact language. It's a messaging function. My view is no, it's a constitutional litigation function and you got to go to the mat on these things. But they don't sue. If you look at the weaponization committee last Congress, they had available to them $20 million, the equivalent of the J6 budget. And the J6 committee proved Democrats can do oversight and inflict a massive amount of damage. People went to jail.
They can send people to jail.
Right.
Yeah.
And we can't do that. And what happened with the weaponization committee was after they fought for that $20 million and McCarthy to become speaker gave them that $20 million, and we thought we were going to have this big badass committee, they only spent a few million of that. And a lot of it went towards just giving staff raises because they didn't want to stage up that fight because they're content with just letter-based oversight and cable news appearances. And people have caught on.
Yeah. I am always particularly interested in the staffing part of this equation because we're a staffing organization. Would you place primary blame on the members themselves or the kinds of intellectually lazy people that work on this committee that sort of dominate Capitol Hill, right? Like most of these people are lame.
No, it's a cottage industry. And I'll go one step further. I would say well over half of the senior oversight staff on Capitol Hill didn't vote for President Trump in either primary.
Oh my gosh.
A lot of them didn't vote for him in the general. Yeah. And some of them have made it out and are in his administration. And you get that because of a lot of these people are lawyers. And the lawyers who go through these institutions and stuff are frankly, ideologically, it's a different sort.
Yeah.
They're embarrassed by President Trump and the MAGA agenda, and they don't want to fight for it. And that's across the board in a lot of these top committees.
Yeah.
And they skate, and they'll find ways around it, and they'll play nice here and there. But fundamentally, they're not our warriors. And that's a huge, huge problem with the staffing. And also, I'll say it is so ripe for young staffers to want to make a mark on this country to take advantage of.
Right.
Like, get in the game. And it's so much better than being a, healthcare legislative assistant or like the forest guy or the Native American guy.
Yeah.
Like, no, go out there and get in the fight.
Yeah. I'm going to kind of put you on the spot here with this one, but who are you most intrigued by in Congress that is very interested in these kinds of issues? Maybe they're not on the committee, but someone that you think like, man, they really have got their head on their shoulders about that.
Yeah. So there's a few. I'll say two that we lost that I really thought were the best in this. Dan Bishop.
Dude, Dan Bishop's the man.
He got it. When I was very sad to see him go, and he knows that because he understood that Congress wasn't doing all that they could and people expected them to do more, and he knew how to do it and he wanted to do it.
Yeah.
Matt Gaetz also.
Yes.
Incredibly intelligent and asked the hard questions and push because he knew they weren't going far enough.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we don't have too many because we just limit the authority of members to do oversight through a chairman.
Right.
And then it becomes a political problem. You need to enforce the subpoena. You need to get a majority vote. And this Congress doesn't like taking hard votes. That was the problem on Hunter. A bunch of Republicans didn't want to vote to enforce certain subpoenas that related to the Bidens, the impeachment inquiry. We had to freaking fight tooth and nail to get Mayorkas impeached. And so until you solve for that political problem that is basically in leadership in the committee chairs, and you allow newcomers and with them new staff to do it, I think we're stuck. But the newcomers, I love Brandon Gill.
Oh, dude. He rocks. I need to get him on this show. I haven't done that yet.
You do. I went to a hearing because I'm a nerd and sometimes I go to these things. Although I will say no one watches hearings at all.
Right.
The rooms are empty. No one watches on C-SPAN. No one cares. It's like they might as well not have them.
I only see it if it makes it to X. Like if somebody posts a clip on X, it's like, oh, I didn't even know you were testifying today. That's interesting.
And that's the members' whole. That's also a problem. Is like the members, instead of asking the tough questions that are really like well thought out and like a lawyer's questions, they just want to generate the X clip.
Right.
And so they don't even ask the witness questions. They speechify for 5 minutes and hope and pray that they get like an Elon retweet. It's dumb. Right. But I was at one hearing and I was there because one of my friends was testifying. And I noticed that Gill was paying attention the entire time, taking notes. And as you could just tell, this guy's taking this seriously.
Yeah.
And then he has really well thought out questions and he's just killing it. And so after that hearing, and I don't think he'll mind me saying this, I called, Chaffetz and I said, this guy's probably going to be our future guy in oversight as he like matures through the conference and gets a gavel one of these days. And I think that's going to happen at some point. And it should.
Yeah. That's awesome. What do you see as, the Oversight Project's role in the Trump era? Like Biden's out of office, so what now for the next 3.5 years? Yeah.
So there's two main categories. The first is we got to see through all the stuff we uncovered over the Biden administration, get accountability for it, and make sure we're actually fundamentally changing these agencies so that doesn't happen again.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, the FBI needs to be like ripped down to its bones and fundamental reform. Not just leadership change, but fundamental reform. And then also that pattern holds for a lot of different agencies. And we need to solve for what the Biden administration did at the border. This should be treated as a criminal investigation at this point. I support a special counsel being appointed for it. In fact, people should be charged. The money should be recouped. The NGOs should be stripped of their tax-exempt status. Countries that played in this should be punished through foreign policy. All the above. And so we're pushing there. We also are owed a ton of documents that the Trump administration now holds. One great example is we still don't have the audio tape of Biden's interview with her, the special counsel who said what everyone already knew, the dude is incompetent. Right?
Yeah.
Like thanks.
He doesn't have a brain.
you needed like a DOJ investigation to find out that Biden's brain didn't work. Like, could have told you that beforehand. But regardless, like we want that audio tape and we still don't have it. And we're owed a ton of documents and it's only 100 days, but we want to get those documents because we want to tell the story of what actually happened in the Biden administration and solve for those problems. And we can't do it unless we can explain with the hard facts what went down and who was responsible. And this auto pen thing is a key part of that. Yeah,
I do want to get to that, but stepping back for a second, what do you think is the recourse for a lot of these officials that served in the Biden administration, like what do you want to happen to them?
Yeah, it's criminal. A lot of what they did is criminal. The statute that we talk about the most is deprivation of civil rights under the color of law. And I might have, for the lawyer nerds out there, misstated a word or two, but largely the criminal conduct stems from the civil rights abuses that government officials engaged in based on ideological and political grounds.
Yeah.
And they put people in jail. They ripped them apart financially. They smeared them. They put them into databases. They tried to rig an election multiple times. And in fact did in 2020. And so there needs to be criminal prosecutions on that front. Unless and until people are held accountable, it'll happen again. And this is what happened when Hillary got let off the hook. It's what happened when they ran the whole Clinton Foundation beforehand. No one did anything about it. Everyone knows about it. No one did anything about it. So then you lead to Obama, who basically knows, hey, they did it before, I can do it too. Netflix and co. back up, Brinks trucks to him and pay him off. And then he's influencing everything through the corporate world in a massively corrupt scheme. And then you got the Bidens who are looking back and say like, hey, like this is kind of a rite of passage. We get to get rich off corruption too.
Yeah.
And they did it in like literally a crackhead manner and tried to replicate what the Clintons did and what the Obamas did because they felt like they deserved it. And so until we punish these people and hold them accountable, they're going to keep doing it and they're still doing it.
Yeah. It does seem like the courts are, this is obvious, like the courts are rigged against us on a lot of these questions. Like, how do you think we are going to successfully do this and hold them accountable after the fact when so many of these judges, again, like many of whom were appointed by the president, seem to be so what's the word I'm looking for? Indisposed to our position.
Yeah, that is the big question. For this system of government to work, it requires the judges to, play in the guardrails.
Yeah.
And they're not playing in the guardrails. And then they're trying to frame that as like whatever Trump's reaction is, as he's the one who's creating the constitutional crisis.
Right.
So from like an ideological perspective, we have to understand that the courts are acting outside of the constitutional bounds.
Right.
And then they're requiring a fix that are within the limited constitutional bounds. They're saying we can break the rules, but you can't break any rules in response to us. That is a permanent checkmate situation. And so in order for us to be able to take the necessary steps, and there's a lot that President Trump could take, and I wish someone else would take them, like Congress, to help him, not have to do everything, which he does, we're not going to solve this problem.
Right. Could you speak to this sort of, this like brain dead loser take that like, oh, we can't do any of these things because they're going to use them against us? I just want to hear your reaction to that.
So dumb. So dumb. Everything they can do to us, they will do.
Yeah.
Always. And they already have.
And they have been. Yeah, right. The David French view.
I mean, look, dude, it's controlled opposition. Everyone knows that. I mean, I cut people off whenever they even go down that line. I was like, just don't care. It is that's blackpilling. It cuts off all options at our disposal.
Yeah.
And so we have to fight fire with fire.
Yeah.
And look, there's people get paid to have like stupid legal opinions where they can pretend like they're the measured and reasonable ones. They work all across DC and they go to the same conferences and stuff and think they are like the intellectual elite who are making sure that us masses who actually want our government to serve us are the bad guys. We need to just start like not caring about their reputational credit. And we also need to stop rewarding those people with positions of power. Those people sneak back in, like lawyers. I'm a lawyer. We have tons of lawyers, but like they shouldn't control every last decision. And certainly when they start talking about like these political things, like, well, if we do this, then they'll do that. It's like, talk to my buddies who, are basically in debt for like the next 10 years because of all the legal fees they're paying. The guys who are 30 and, talk to guys like Steve Bannon who went to jail.
Absolutely.
Talk to the 1,600 misdemeanor J6ers who got the book thrown at them for like something that otherwise would have been charged. Like it has already happened to us.
Yeah. This is an anecdote, but one of the smartest things I've ever heard from an attorney who served in the last administration and is serving in this one. He told me that an attorney's job is not to tell you whether or not you can do something. It's how you do it.
Yeah. Yeah. And they love that. Like the thing about attorneys is, to their credit, they just love scheming.
Yeah.
They're schemers by trade. You've got to be kind of mentally off to be a lawyer. I know that because, I am, but like, I'm embarrassed by it, frankly. They try to bottleneck every sort of decision and express like a legal concern with what ultimately is a political or strategic one.
Yes.
And it's like, have the lawyers review this. I'm like, why would the lawyers review my tweet?
Yeah.
Like, come on. Like, did you talk to the lawyers about that? And it's just like, we're never going to get anything done if we allow ourselves to be governed at all times in issues that aren't even like legal, but may have like a slight legal thing by the people who are the most risk averse. This country is in deep trouble. I'm not looking for the whatever most legal way to go about things where you basically say anything that has any amount of risk, we're not going to do. We're in a risky environment.
Yeah. I'll tell you who it was that told me that after, and you'll think it's funny. But shifting gears a little bit, like, let's talk about DOGE. DOGE. We had a guest on last week who, we talked a little bit about, Elon is reportedly stepping back. He's going to be in DC 2 days a week, I guess. Still involved with DOGE in some capacity. But how do you think, as we're coming after the first 100 days, how do you think DOGE is doing?
Yeah, so a lot of thoughts on this. First off, I think DOGE is great. For a couple reasons that may not seem obvious and may kind of seem like it's undercutting DOGE, but I don't intend it that way at all. I think DOGE went through the biggest fat and low-hanging fruit in the administration in a fire-ready aim way. And that was hugely important. And I frankly think now we're at a stage where the most obvious things are kind of off the books and the really hard things are the things left to look at. The main drivers of the debt and deficit and government.
Right.
Things that are, it's easy to justify just slashing, whatever crazy transgender craze or whatever the hell they keep doing to animals in these studies, things like that. But when we start talking about the real drivers of fraud, waste, and abuse, it gets messy. And that's where our favorite lawyers have to get involved. And the lawyers have kind of taken over a lot of DOGE as of late. If you notice this shift, it's because, they said, we need lawyers on this because lawyers control everything. And so it's slowed a little bit. And it's also slowed because they found a lot of crazy stuff out of the gate that was easy to find. Okay, so that's the status. I think the lasting impact of DOGE is largely a communications and political one. I think it fundamentally discredited the government and the left and just showing the entire country how absurd the problem has gotten. And that could only have been accomplished by Elon Musk.
Yeah.
I think he has made something like transparency, government accountability, good government, whatever you want to say, a partisan issue. And I think that's a good thing. Most people, want to have these caucuses and say, transparency is bipartisan. We all want to do it. I wish that were the case.
Yeah, they don't want to do it.
I'm not going to pretend it's the case for the sake of holding hands and singing Kumbaya with Ilhan Omar or whatever she sings. And I'm sure I don't like that song.
Yeah.
It's probably not a good song. Yeah, it's From the River to the Sea or something like that.
Yeah.
God bless you, Ilhan. And so by moving an 80-20 issue firmly to the right, and it's a Republican issue now.
Yeah.
And I think it's called the bluff. And put it where it needs to be. And I love, 80-20 issues.
Yeah. What do you think the biggest contributors of fraud, waste, and abuse are that are the most difficult to untangle?
Yeah. At a fundamental level, it's just the size of the government, right?
Yeah.
The more government you have, the more things it touches, you're just going to naturally create more fraud, waste, and abuse. The nonprofit space is obviously huge. And that has been something I've been yelling about from my very small microphone. And then Elon yelled about it from his very big microphone. Now everyone knows about it. And I couldn't be happier with that. And so the government fundamentally shouldn't be paying nonprofits. This is an Obama era governance style where they figured out the Constitution sucks. If we want to radically transform this country, we just have to give all the government's money to other groups to do things that we cannot do through the government. That's the strategy. And so that needs to be cut off at its knees, and it's because it's a huge driver and it's paying the salaries of all the people we don't like. Another thing is just the entitlement programs are massive. When you have, you saw this in the PPP COVID loan program. You can't give out that much money and have government bureaucrats who don't know what they're doing overseeing it and expect them to have it be targeted.
All these people who incorporated my Ford Mustang LLC.
Right. And not to mention the race-based stuff. We have a system right now where if you want a government contract, your best bet is to get an Eskimo on your board. Yeah. And it's just so stupid. Everyone's running around trying to find the Eskimos. And it's I thought the Eskimos lived in igloos. They're all government contractors here in DC. Go back to your igloo. If it's if it's so hard being an Eskimo, go be an Eskimo and show us your value and your worth. I don't understand why you're in defense contracting.
Yeah. Well, I don't understand why they have you building missiles.
Right.
What's the...
And they definitionally are terrible at defense. They've been conquered. If the Eskimos were these defense warlords and the best fighters, the modern day Genghis Khans, they wouldn't be this minority class we have to shower contracts on.
Yeah.
They suck
would
at
be
defense.
our kings, actually.
You and I could raid all the igloos right now. It wouldn't take much. We bring a match and the igloos melt. That's not our defense contracting base.
Yeah. That's really funny. What do you think are the biggest are going to be the biggest drivers for DOGE to continue over the next couple of years? Like, it seems like people really want this momentum to keep going. Now, it is difficult because, again, like you said, we've already gotten a lot of the low-hanging fruit. So with more limited Elon involvement, and you still have a lot of these young folks in DC, like, where and how do we keep pushing the pressure?
Yeah, great question. Because I think it's critically important that we sustain this. And this isn't just like a transient moment in time. And we make it one of those 80-20 forever issues. A couple things can be done. I think politically speaking, we can't lower the bar for Congress. This is always the problem. Ever since I've been in DC, we want the short-term win so bad, we're willing to give cover to politicians that aren't on our side and impose problems long-term. We never solve for the red state senator who's a liberal because we just have to get this next reconciliation vote. Right. And they get an endorsement from the president. And it's all, these short-term trade-offs to perpetuate the long-term problem. So as it relates to DOGE, we need to not be cheerleaders in the short term in the budget context. If Congress doesn't match DOGE's energy, we should say so. And we should name the people who won't match it. And I think the best way to do this, and this is one of my more subversive ideas, and people don't like it. That's great. I love ideas people don't like. We should DOGE Congress. Congress itself needs to play by the standards it holds the government to. It is a wasteful enterprise right now that basically just serves as a place for lobbyists to go and pitch people and make money. Yeah, their travel's absurd. I've been on flights that were like well over $10,000 because like Congress just books them at the last minute. And like I have deep shame about that. I had no idea at the time. I never would have done it. But when you look at the receipts for like how they pay for things like travel, it's insane. All these little offices they have. And like fundamentally, like the Congress isn't generating the material we pay them to do, which is legislation and oversight. Does every office need like a Native American, and we're picking on Native Americans today, I suppose, but like a staffer dedicated to that issue or that issue? When at the end of the day, like lobbyists will just write the bill for leadership. It's like, it's just a playground. It's like student government, but it's real government.
I know it doesn't look it because my dad's Norwegian, but I am actually half Native American. So I give you permission to say this.
I actually accidentally minored in Native American history in college. I love Native Americans. Like it's always top of mind because I think it's such a fascinating culture. But I'm picking on them because of the government contracting, waste, fraud, and abuse. But I love the Native Americans.
What is the if you did this with, I actually quite like this idea. What do you think are some of the first things that go in Congress? Is it primarily like a cap on travel costs or? Like, what do you think?
Travel's the easiest one.
Yeah. Franking, maybe?
Franking's a great one, and it favors the incumbents, which is stupid and one of our biggest problems. We need fresh and blood. I think that's what the Constitution envisions. Here's a subversive one. I think members should have to tweet themselves. The idea that, like, someone else is speaking for the member all the time, and, like, they have no idea, and they're just constantly caring about their social media presence. We aren't hearing from the people we actually elected. We're hearing from, like, a young staffer who's just got his boss who doesn't know how to work an iPhone. And it's just, like, a really stupid setup when you think about like how this country's supposed to operate. Like we elect these people to fight for us, yet like we're just getting like gargled talking points from like a fresh out of college kid who I'm sure is great, but like make them tweet.
Comm staffers. No staffers are deleted.
Like we cannot bash Biden in the White House for running on an auto pen. When 95% of the stuff we hear from our elected representatives are basically auto penned by a staffer.
That is a really funny idea.
They have to think more.
I mean, the president and the vice president tweet for themselves.
Yes.
Or Truth Social for themselves.
Right.
But if they can do it, you can do it.
It's like books. No one writes their own books. No one reads the books.
Yeah.
It's a money laundering scheme.
Yeah.
Like you should have, if you put your name on the book, you should have to write it. Yeah. And these politicians just get book companies that come to us like, hey, we'll give you a big advance. I'll write the book for you. And then your friends in the political committees and the NGOs, they're going to buy all your books.
Yeah, they'll buy 1,000 copies.
And you're good to go.
Whatever.
You're good to go.
Yeah. Wow. How important do you think it is that the primary drivers of the success of DOGE have been these like young 20-somethings, many of whom dropped out of school?
Love it. I love it
because it's humiliating.
I love it for that reason, but also because it works better.
Yeah.
Like my team, we joke with each other. We're kind of an island of lost toys, like misfit kids. Like everyone's got an amazing experience and background, but like we're applying new skill sets in a place that's never seen this type of innovation. And that's why I think Oversight Project works so well. It's not people, with like the credentials that'll get you in like, well, we do have some of those credentialed people and they're very proud of them. And hello, Sam, if you're listening, you do have a great Harvard legal background. But they're just aggressive in applying tools in new ways. And when the administration does that for DOGE, I think it's crazy good.
Yeah. What would be your idea for, as some of these, I call them kids, they're like 4 or 5 years younger than me, but as some of these guys, start to cycle out of doing government stuff, what do you think is the best way that we can keep that spirit alive and take care of those guys?
Yeah, I would love for the Oversight Project to be the incubator of that. If we grow the way I think we will grow, there needs to be a permanent institution that can capture these people, provide for them.
Yeah. You want to hire big balls, dude?
I would love to hire big balls. But on our team, he would be medium balls, okay? That's going to get me in trouble. The lawyers will not like that. So we'll take big balls. He's going to get demoted to medium balls.
He's medium balls.
But we like him.
But we like him. That's great. You said you wanted to talk about Barack Obama.
Yeah.
Let's just.
What an illegitimate president. He did so much lasting damage in every regard.
Yeah.
And like he really set the stage for Biden to be able to like incompetently walk in and just be like a managed enterprise the entire time.
Right.
He fundamentally changed the way this country operates in its governance structure. And I don't think people recognize that. And whether that's attacking the courts and their legitimacy and then actually delegitimizing them by getting people on the bench who wanted to complete the Marxist project of a complete takeover. We have judges now who don't even pretend to be following the law. Like Ketanji Brown Jackson is not a Supreme Court justice in the traditional sense whatsoever. She is a vessel to just like spit out like ChatGPT, whatever like the ends oriented thing are. And so he's made a mockery of our legal system. And that's been one of his biggest projects. And then shifting and combining the government with like the dark money, like nonprofit sector and the Soroses and everyone else has been a complete disaster. It's Democrats before him would have too much pride and love for their country to do this, as much as we may have disagreed on policy. Right. But he basically gave away the control of the United States government to foreign interests and others that shared an ideologically subversive view of how to execute their Marxist project.
Yeah. On the Supreme Court thing, I do love this graphic of like, I think it was amount of words spoken in the first couple of months. And Ketanji Brown Jackson was like 11,000 and Clarence Thomas was like 524 or something like that. It's like she's at the top, he's at the bottom, and everyone else is like way less than 11,000.
Her husband has to love when the Supreme Court's in session so he can finally get a word in. He's like, someone else is dealing with this problem today.
A little peace and quiet, finally.
Yeah. God bless that guy.
Yeah, that's super interesting. Why do you think, most people don't recognize how damaging of a president he was? Like you talk to normal people and it's like, yeah, it was like kind of like a Bill Clinton thing. Like it was just this bad guy we like didn't like, and it wasn't as bad as Biden. Like, why do people miss the fact that this is like a Marxist subversive that ran our country for 8 years?
Yeah. Because a lot of other bad things were blowing in the direction, behind Obama, like the decline of the family, the decline of patriotism, the demographic change of this country where people had a shared sense of kind of where they came from, who they were, and what they all believed together. All of those factors led to an environment in which people were just like, did not fundamentally have the same like love of country. And it manifested in political things that were extremely divisive. Like Obama introduced race as a divisive concept. And that has been the wind that has pushed so many of the left's Marxist objectives. They use race, the immigration issue. Like it's always been like, oh, you don't want brown people to come in, you're a racist, so we should have an open border. I think like Americans woke up to that when Biden opened the border so badly and they saw how bad it was. But that's how they get their things done. And they do it on every policy issue. And so when you give opiates to the masses that are lacking the foundation, as like all those other factors played out, and present it in like these social, cultural terms of like, if you don't agree, you're a racist, or like how, blah, 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 whatever plays they run, like you can't execute those things. And also people don't want to realize how broken this country actually is. It's human nature to be like, this is just politics. Like people are always arguing, but they've lost sight of what, like, we're not arguing about the end of America being great anymore. We're arguing about like America itself. These aren't political fights. They're of like whether this country should exist.
Yeah. I feel like there are, different critiques of Obama coming from different directions. Like there are a lot of people that would say like, it's total Marxist, progressive. And then there are a lot of people that critique him on, under the lens that he's like a neoliberal. So like, his economics like weren't uber progressive and he was still very involved in the Middle East. Like which do you think is more true of a picture, or is it a little bit of both?
Yeah, I think he married all those things together to fit maximum political impact.
It's
right?
just like, all the disgusting.
Like you're a Marxist. You don't run for president. Like I'm a Marxist. Like I am basically like a long-term project by virtue of my resume of like Marxist influences ideologically bearing on me. No, you take something to market that is more presentable, then you marry it with the political interests of like neoliberalism and globalism, and then also corporate power, which he has done. And then you marry that with like the divisive race issues. And now you get this new soup of the modern day left, which is ideological at its core, but its power structure relies on all those other things. That's their power base.
It's just obvious he doesn't believe in anything at all.
Hell no. There's a lot he says that isn't true.
Yeah.
You know, on a lot of fundamental things.
Yeah. Like where he was born? Is that what you're like winking at me?
I'm winking. There's some things that don't add up.
Okay.
I think Reggie Love might know the answers to some of those things as well.
Is this like Michelle Obama's man?
I didn't say that. You said it. You said a couple things. I'm not disagreeing with you. You do your own research.
It seems to me that I think a lot of people would sort of misconstrue Biden as the ideological successor to Barack Obama, which I think is dumb. What I would say is it's other dummies, particularly one dummy in the Senate named Adam Schiff. Why don't you talk about your history with Shifty Schiff?
He is rather shifty. I mean, gosh, what to have people on the opposition that are just so obviously just fake and cringe and massively criminal is such a benefit because they make the argument so easy. So we talked about the auto pen briefly. My team got together last summer and basically pulled all the documents that Biden was alleged to have signed. We figured out that they were being auto-penned, which then raises questions of, did Biden even authorize these things? And did he have the mental capacity to, even if he did?
Can you explain like what the auto pen is?
Yeah, the auto pen's a machine that signs a document for you. That someone else can like push the button and sign the document.
And what is it traditionally used for?
Like not emailing, letters like the Girl Scouts, like congratulations on selling all the cookies.
Yeah.
Things like that. Not like pardons, which are quarterly presidential documents that the president has to, like, he's the only one who can do this. And so this leads us to Biden's quote unquote auto pen pardon of Schiff on his final day. There's a flurry of pardons. First off, another point is I don't think those are actually pardons. I think they go far beyond what pardon power allows. They're basically suspension of the operation of law for just ridiculous things. They're not core legal pardons for that reason. But secondary to that, I don't think Biden actually signed them or knew they were being signed. To believe that, you have to believe that Biden was wheeling and dealing on the last day of office. This person gets pardoned, that person gets pardoned. No, staff was doing this is where I think this road goes. And so Schiff has a funky pardon.
Yeah.
So Adam Schiff, I tried telling you in your little nice committee hearing room in front of Dick Durbin, but you got up and left. Your pardon's no good. Okay. And by accepting the pardon, you admitted to criminal wrongdoing. That's what the Biden DOJ said in court when they were arguing against Trump's pardons. So you have a funky pardon, you admitted you're guilty, and you still can be charged. And that's the message I was trying to tell you, but you got up and ran out of the hearing room. And so you could be charged. You should be charged. I'm going to do everything I can to make sure you're charged. And there's a lot of things for which you can be charged for. So we'd love to chat with you about it, but your pardon's no good. Probably should call your lawyer.
What do you think he should be charged for?
Yeah, first thing is the deprivation of civil rights. He did a lot of damage through the power that he had, and he lied, he cheated, and he stole information, and he used that to deprive people of their civil rights. Also, he's got some really funky business with these houses. It seems like there's a lot of Democrats are getting houses in interesting places.
Yeah.
Like Tish James up there in New York, she's got a big problem. Seems like Adam Schiff might have that problem too. And hey, Adam Schiff, we're just asking questions, okay? Nobody's above the law. We're just asking questions for now.
So on the actual like legal question, I should have looked at the pardon before we started recording this, but if I'm remembering correctly, it was like a preemptive pardon, right? Like the dates were weird. They were meant to line up with, I don't know, like you remind me what was off about it.
Yeah, some of the pardons for like Biden family members are just like, you're guilty of so much. We're just going to say like, you're good on everything.
Date range,
yeah,
right?
Like, we really know it. We can't list it. We're going to get this done fast. The auto pen, it's got limitations on ink. So we're just going to say like, for all crimes you ever did. For the Schiff ones and the J6, it doesn't name Schiff. It's like everyone who worked on the J6 committee and like MPD and other things. And it's so more relates to that central fact pattern.
Yeah.
And the J6 committee was a not legal committee in a lot of senses. They didn't let the Republicans on. And they used it in ways that were not only unconstitutional, but like illegal in a statutory sense in terms of it was a political vehicle meant to deprive people of their civil rights, inflict legal and punitive damages. And I think the people that are damaged by that should be repaid.
Yeah. No, I think that's absolutely right. Why does the usage of the, like, I'm asking you to explain this to our audience, like we're all five, but why does the use of the auto pen for official documents like this matter?
Right. Because our Constitution vests power in the president. That is core to our democracy, as they call it. Only the president can do presidential things. So when it comes to things only the president can do, like signing legislation or pardons, you need to know that he actually signed it. And he needs to be the one that either authorized it or signed it, right? And I don't even think the authorization flies a lot of legal scrutiny, by the way.
Right.
So let's just put that to the side. The real question is, say for argument's sake, he is allowed to authorize it, which I don't think he is for those things. Did he even know about it? I don't think he did. And did he even have the capacity to delegate it? I don't think he did either. And I think until we charge these individuals, and we as the royal we, somebody in the administration, charges these people, we're not going to find out who actually authorized it. So that's why I'm really anxious. You know, President Trump has declared the pardons null and void. I want to see people prosecuted for him, and then their pardons be tested, where they'll have to argue, no, Biden signed this, or, you know, Susan Rice told me to do it, or whoever.
Yeah. Can you do that? Can you nullify past presidents' pardons?
Well, they were null to start. They were always fake, and, you know, they're
fake
fake.
And gay?
I didn't say that. I did not say that. They could be, but I didn't say it. Yeah, they were never good. So President Trump basically acknowledged that they were bad from the start.
Yeah.
Also interesting here, Congress, if, you know, they want to get off cable news for a little bit, could issue subpoenas to the people who received pardons and call them in and ask them who authorized it, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
They could claim executive privilege and say, we can't talk about that. But guess what? Biden withdrew executive privilege for Trump administration folks previously.
Yeah.
And so the Trump administration could say, no executive privilege for you.
Yeah. What are some other, or are there any other, you know, documents aside from the pardons that you have found were signed using the auto pen?
Yeah. Oh, tons. So we had something we released last week where it basically shows halfway through the administration, it was auto pen like by default. So before, like when Biden was in the White House, he would actually sign things, but then, and common sense, you know, kind of tends to lead you to, okay, there was a cognitive like event and people realized we couldn't do this anymore. So it turned into presidency by auto pen on default. That applies mostly to the pardons, obviously, executive orders. But the thing with the executive orders, Trump just throws them out. So they're already done. And then legislation. He did make a habit of signing legislation. It's kind of funny because his signature just varies left and right. The guy couldn't hold a pen.
Yeah.
Also, someone else could have been signing it for him. He's on camera signing a lot of it though. So
yeah. So what pieces of, is there like a big piece of legislation that sticks out, you know, in your mind that he signed using the auto pen that we could potentially?
No, because they made such a show of the big ones.
Okay.
You know, like on the major ones.
Yeah.
Got all the cameras. We're going to like prop up Joe, put some makeup on him, the wig, the hair plugs. We're going to peel his face back a little bit, get him on the uppers and
give him some ketamine.
Show people that he can like sign a document, even though he might say just outrageous things that are unrelated and show that he's beyond repair.
But theoretically, if that had happened, you could make the argument that that legislation was null and void.
Yeah, I think it's a harder one to make than the pardons, but I think the president is the only one who can sign documents like that.
Very, very interesting. This seems to be sort of an indictment on our side of the aisle, but like, why are you the only person talking about this?
Yeah, because it's hard. It takes a lot of work. We have a team that works insane hours, like past midnight every night and over the weekends, reviewing these documents, getting the documents, doing the forensic analysis, doing the legal work, getting it out there, getting it amplified, getting it in the system. That's hard work. What's easy work is just sending a letter, being like, I'm so mad. Here's my letter.
Yeah.
Can I go on TV tonight to talk about my letter? It's a beautiful letter. Got letterhead. It says I'm mad. And they always start with, I'm deeply concerned. You know, it's every letter starts, I'm deeply concerned.
Yeah. Outside of Congress, who have been some of your biggest, like some of the bravest people that have been willing to stand by you as you've done a lot of this oversight work? Basically, I'm letting you, you know, cheer on your friends.
Yeah. Well, the first and foremost, Dr. Kevin Roberts of the Heritage Foundation. This never would have happened in previous Heritage Foundations. Yeah. What we do is controversial. It moves so fast. It is unpredictable. You need to be not only say go forth, conquer, but then also when things, you know, get politically contentious and sideways, have your guys' backs, and he has had our backs. There are other absolute heroes in this fight. I think Tom Finn at Judicial Watch is indispensable. They've been doing this for a while. I think, you know, Tom Jones, who already talked about, we work with him a ton, is indispensable. And there's a lot of other people, and this is what I love, who would prefer their names not to be mentioned whatsoever. People we work with behind the scenes in undercover capacities, sleuths on the internet and things like that. Those people are really what make us as successful as we are. They help us quite a bit.
You know who you are, and we are tipping our hat to you.
You are. Anons, thank you.
Yeah. So you've spent a lot of time working on, I know this episode is going to come out next week, but I've been following a lot of this yesterday and today. The nomination of Ed Martin to serve as the U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia. He is a wonderful man, and he is also super based. Why don't you tell us a little bit about Ed and why it is so important that we have him in this role?
Yes. So Ed Martin, now USA Martin in D.C., is someone I greatly admire, both professionally and personally. He is a good dude. When he gets in there, he does things right. He's been doing things right for a while. He is, when he was named U.S. Attorney for D.C., he reoriented an office that was completely weaponized. 1,600 J6 cases on like misdemeanors mostly, in a city that was going to hell in a handbasket as it relates to crime. He has turned that office around completely, and now he's focusing on just, meat and potatoes, law and order. Now, the issue is the Senate has largely gotten through and held their nose and had their arms twisted for Trump's cabinet. They're in a position where they're like, all right, we played ball. Now we want to take our scalps. It's the classic divide of, your establishment types and then people who actually believe what they say on the campaign trail.
Yeah.
So Ed Martin is unfortunately in this political timing where they want to take someone out. And they want to do an unprecedented thing, which is to deny the president his favorite U.S. attorney, and that is Ed Martin. For instance, the guy who was Biden's voice vote, confirmed, Republican support. Eric Holder, when Clinton picked him, voice vote, no objections. But Ed Martin, they're drawing objections. And Durbin and Schiff and Schumer have basically been shopping Oppo that they've been curating for a long time and have gotten to Republican senators. It's been smears. We've debunked a ton of them. He's responded to it. But nonetheless, they're trying to convince Republican senators now's their time to basically break Trump's hold on the Senate. And if that happens, we know what kind of Senate we have, and it's not going to be one that can deliver the mandate.
Yeah.
And that's why Ed Martin is so critically important.
Yeah. Is there any other reason why a lot of these senators do not want to support Ed Martin aside from showing Trump who's allegedly boss?
Yeah. So
do they want DC to be a hellhole?
Good question. If they didn't, they would vote to confirm Ed Martin. There's some pretextual reasons that have been floated, out there. He represented J6 folks in 3 and finding attorneys in DC, and so members who still have a burn in their bonnet about J6 just view him as a J6 guy, even though he's since he's gotten to the U.S. attorney job, he's now prosecuting people who hit cops when they didn't before.
Yeah.
You had to draw blood to get prosecuted for hitting a cop before. Martin said, no, if you hit a cop, I'm charging you. Yeah. And so his record on that is the best anyone's had in Washington, D.C. Yeah. But they need to express their dissatisfaction with J6 history and to resuscitate it and to exaggerate Martin's role in order for whatever their political purposes may be.
Yeah.
Some may think it's beneficial politics to them back home to stand up to Trump in a little bit. And they also know if they get an ounce of flesh here, their threats moving forward on Trump's mandate agenda will be taken more seriously. So if they prove they can buck him in a deeply embarrassing fashion here, what happens when it comes time for reconciliation?
Yeah.
Or any other legislative package? Now it's not our guys in charge of the Senate. It's essentially Durbin, Schiff, and Schumer in charge of the Senate.
Yeah. Well, and this is so important because it bleeds into a bunch of other issues, if they win on this. I mean, I think one of the most salient issues is if the president is able to broker peace between Russia and Ukraine. I know there are several senators that would hate to see that happen. And it mainly lines up with the kinds of people who would not want to support Ed Martin. So if we give them a win here, it is going to be a long 3.5 years where we are going to constantly have to try to bring them back in line.
That's exactly right. This is the inflection point.
Yeah.
He is Trump's mandate man in D.C. If to deny the president for the first time his D.C. U.S. attorney is such a dramatic and explosive FU to the administration, that will color other things. And we cannot let that happen.
Yeah. I've seen Ed Martin talking a lot recently on, he's very fun to follow on X, by the way, but talking a lot about how he wants to clean up DC. We have, I think, a lot of listeners who, currently work in DC, whether it's on the Hill or in the administration, or maybe you're in an internship or whatever. But for people that are not in DC, can you just describe how much it sucks here, dude?
Gosh. I used to live a block away from work in a nice apartment complex. I loved it. The problem was Black Lives Matter. The riots. my wife was pregnant at the time. We got a brick thrown through our car like twice in some of the riots and stuff. And I decided like, hell no, we're not living here. And so we moved to, unfortunately, a more liberal place up in Maryland because that's where, family is based and made it easier. But they're not as violent. They're kind of, calmer liberals.
Yeah.
They put up a lot of signs.
Yeah.
They write on next door, just crazy stuff.
Yeah.
But they're not going to throw a brick through your car.
Yeah.
Right. They're just going to throw a brick through your social media. But it sucks. It sucks. And staffers get routinely their butts kicked out in DC. They're walking around. They're getting jumped. They're getting carjacked. A member of Congress got carjacked. It is a violent place, and the juvenile crime is out of control because now, the real gang heads are running the juveniles because they know they won't be prosecuted. And so these kids carry the guns, they go and rob the stores, and they give the money back to the big dogs because we made a policy decision not to prosecute them. Because if you prosecute them, guess what you are? A racist, okay?
Yeah.
You can't be a racist. And so that's what the environment that Ed Martin has inherited, and he's already taken steps towards fixing it. In fact, despite all these, criticisms of him, he gathered bipartisan staffers from both House and Senate to come over to the U.S. Attorney's Office and basically say, I'm not going to tolerate you getting jumped and carjacked and robbed and everything else when you're trying to get to work. And so he's doing that work, and members are trying to paint a false J6 narrative like he's an insurrectionist or something ridiculous when the exact opposite in practice is happening right now.
Yeah. I've talked to a couple of these businesses here on Pennsylvania Avenue, and because there's always panhandlers out there harassing people. It's not just, I need help, please give me some money. It's sometimes screaming at people. Mm-hmm. And some of these guys have called the police, and what they do is they come and pick these guys up and they say look, our bosses are not really going to let us do anything about this. So we're going to go drop him 2 blocks that way. And then he's back 20 minutes later. It's absolutely insane. Or you go to it's the CVS down there. I went down there to buy Band-Aids to put in our office one time, and it's the Band-Aids are locked up. Who's stealing Band-Aids, dude?
Especially if they're not,
nuts.
Yeah. That's a big problem. That's ridiculous. And we also don't even have jaywalkers anymore. First off, we've gone way past the jaywalking problem. There's no traffic law obeying at all in DC. Yeah. It's a cultural issue.
Are you anti-jaywalking?
I think of broken windows policing across the board until we figure out what the hell is going on.
You do not jaywalk.
I am not going to admit that as a lawyer. I do not jaywalk. I will admit, I do not jaywalk. I'm a traffic light kind of guy because I want to set an example for everyone. Yeah. But people don't either just walk across the street. It's just chaos. You have mopeds zipping around with illegals delivering drugs on them all the time. It's a third world city. It's we're in some Indian kind of third tier city if you just look at the streets. But beyond jaywalking, we've now gotten to the point where we just have people just standing in the street. They're just jaying. They're not even jaywalking.
They're just jaying.
They're just jaying in the street. You drive and you're why is this dude standing here and there's a cop right here? He's just jaying. I'm trying to get home. The nanny's got to get off. He's jaying.
Yeah. Did you just make that word up?
We did.
We did just now. The brain trust, dude. Yeah, that's very interesting. That saying just jaying is going to live in my head rent free forever now.
Why not? You'll notice everywhere. Everyone's just jaying around town. And the illegals are all zipping around the jayers, just trying to get their drugs or door dashing. Yeah, right. They're meth dashing.
I was about to ask a serious question, and I just could not stop picturing the many times I've seen this happen.
You're going to hit one and you're going to go to
jail. What are the institutional forces once he gets in that Ed Martin is going to be up against to actually enforce the law in the District of Columbia?
Yeah, it's hostile territory. I mean, he's going to have the DC bar and the funded public defenders operations, which are hard left, going nuts. He's going to have active litigants the Mark Elias world trying to gum everything up. He's going to have propaganda press trying to, make him a divisive character the entire time. And then the question is going to be what kind of support does he get out of the administration through and through? Trump's got a pretty good control on it now, but like we talked about earlier, DOJ is a bunch of lawyers. Lawyers find things that they take issues with. And so that's basically what he's going to be dealing with.
Yeah.
Apart from the gangbangers, which are the prime focus, that's a big problem to deal with.
Yeah.
And the jayers.
Yes.
I'm calling them afterwards. The J task force. You and I will lead it.
Okay.
And the J.
I jaywalk all the time, dude. You don't want me to lead it.
Just don't J. Just don't J.
Just don't J. The audience to this podcast is very there are a lot of people who are very involved in making policy. We have a lot of attorneys that listen to this podcast. What sorts of things can these people be doing to assist the work that you're doing?
Yeah. So if you're an attorney and you're in any position where you can express kind of your legal talents, the best thing you can do is find an issue and absolutely dominate it and take it to the ends of the earth. That's how I got started. And I'm not holding myself up as an example, but the Secret Service investigation, I would not let go. And we found so much stuff and we developed whistleblowers and sources. I knew that agency in and out. I could at that point in time name you the org chart just from memory. So for those lawyers out there, you got to pick something, you got to own it, and you got to win it. And so they should go and do that, and we will help them do that.
Great. And for the people who want to get connected with you and follow the work that you're doing, where can they do that? So
we live on X quite a bit. I'm at mhowelltweets, real creative, right? And our organization, the Oversight Project, is at It's Your Gov, because that's our slogan. Everyone needs a slogan. And we call ourselves Oversight Project. It's your government, because it's your government. And people view the government now too much like it's just a corporation or like a board of overseers. Yeah. No, these people, they work for us and they got to deliver. And we're trying to re-inject that into civic life. And then our website is itsyourgov.org. And we got all the YouTubes and the socials and things like that. Great. Well, thank you so much for all the work that you're doing. And thank you for coming on Moment of Truth. Hey, thanks for having me. Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Moment of Truth podcast. We really hope you enjoyed your time with Mike Howell. I think that was the most I've ever laughed on a podcast episode before. So thank you to Mike and for all the important work that he's doing. We were super glad to have him on. Again, going to make a plug for our website, americanmoment.org. Jake Mercier, our co-founder, put a lot of hard work into building a new website. So we have a lot of really cool information on there. And if you're interested in getting involved in one of our programs and having us help you progress your career here in DC, we'd be happy to help. You can find out more information about that at americanmoment.org. Thank you, and we will see you again next week. Moment of Truth is an American Moment podcast taped at the Conservative Partnership Campus Studios and is produced by Jake Mercier and Hunter Smith, with original graphics and title cards by Jared Cummings. Our intro song is A Minor Struggle by Ryan Serenich, and our website is americanmoment.org.